Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to spend some time with you today and talk about what's near and dear to my heart and my colleagues that I just heard from, and that's the wonderful world of Division III. Just a brief, to put D3 in context, a brief word about the NCAA, our association. We're a group of about 1,200 member schools and conferences, schools like Wellesley and Bryn Mawr, but schools that cut across all three divisions. We have about 500,000 student athletes that we serve. The national office is here in Indianapolis, but we just really run the association on behalf of our 1,200 member schools and conferences. To talk a bit about the three divisions, and then we'll spend a little more time talking about Division III. Division I, there are about 350 schools. They're larger institutions in terms of average enrollment. They are larger institutions in terms of typically the scope of their institution and their athletics programs. About 37% of our student athletes compete in Division I. Average enrollments, undergrad enrollments, somewhere around 10,000. Division II, we have about a group of schools there, about 200 or so, about 210 schools that participate in Division II. About 24% of our student athletes participate at the Division II level. Division I and Division II, D1's mostly public schools, about 80% public, 20% private. D2 is about 50-50. Both of those divisions permit the awarding of athletics aid. Division III does not. We'll talk more about that in a second. But I think it's important to note, even in those divisions, most folks assume that every student athlete who participates in Division I or Division II is getting a full athletic scholarship. Typically, that's not the case. So in both divisions, only about 60% of those student athletes that I talked about receive any amount of athletics aid. So about 40% of Division I and II student athletes aren't receiving any athletics aid at all. And then those 40% who are, not all of them by far, are receiving a full athletic scholarship. Median enrollment in Division II is about 2,400. So you can see that it's a smaller division in scope. And it's about 60% private, public, and about 40% private. So D3, that is the institution that you've heard some terrific representation from today, from Wellesley and Bryn Mawr. We're about 80% private and about 20% public, so lots of schools. I wouldn't argue that they're all exactly like Bryn Mawr and Wellesley, but lots of private schools that try to offer that kind of educational experience. We are the largest division in terms of member schools. We have about 450 NCAA schools in Division III, so about 40% of our membership is in Division III. And we have the most student athletes. Again, about 40% of the student athletes in the NCAA participate in Division III. We like to say Division III is the largest because it works. It's a unique approach to athletics. It's very special and proven very productive and very popular. What makes Division III unique? Several things. Number one, the average enrollment, undergrad enrollment. It's the smallest of the three divisions at about 1,700 students. It's got the highest percentage of those students who are student athletes. About 25% of Division III students are student athletes. If you take out the 20% of our schools that are public, which have the largest enrollment in the division, and look at those private schools, typically that average participation is about 30% or more. So of the three divisions, the highest percentage of students are student athletes. In terms of what makes the division unique as well, this idea that the Division III doesn't offer athletics aid. Why is that? Well, when the division was created about 40 years ago, that was a conscious decision by its membership to say, recognizing that athletics aid comes with commitments. Commitments in terms of time, in terms of resources, in terms of focus for our student athletes. And there was a conscious decision that by not offering athletics aid, it would allow student athletes to focus on a robust athletic experience, but give our student athletes more time to focus on non-athletic endeavors. First and foremost, success in the classroom, but also the kinds of things that you heard the folks from Wellesley and Bryn Mawr talk about: study abroad, internships, externships. Division III has by far the highest percentage of student athletes who are able to participate in those co-curricular and extracurricular activities. So I'd like to say Division III, I would probably put my job in jeopardy if I said it's the best model, but I would say it's a great model. It's key for student athletes when they're considering college choices to figure out what's the best model for them. Do they want a higher profile athletic experience which comes with significant time demands and maybe some academic limitations? Or are they interested in a Division III experience which is very robust from an athletic perspective, but has more limited athletic restrictions that permit you to take advantage of opportunities outside of the classroom? We do have a significant number of international student athletes across all three divisions, over 20,000 international students from over 100 countries. We don't have numbers specifically for Division III that I can throw at you, but I can tell you the sports in which international students participate most frequently. Probably ice hockey is no surprise for Canadians, but also women's soccer, lacrosse, basketball, softball, tennis. Those tend to be the sports that we see the most international student athletes participating. Just a couple more words about Division III and what makes it unique. Again, we have the most limits on playing in practice seasons, for example, on contests. We don't permit redshirting. Why is that? Well, ultimately, our D3 schools aren't providing athletics because it makes money, because in Division III it doesn't. They're not providing athletic opportunities because they have a commitment or responsibility for public entertainment. We all like to see fans in the stands, but that's not really what it's about. Ultimately, D3 schools offer athletics because of the educational experience it provides to participating student athletes. The things that you learn through participating in athletics that are life skills that will carry you forward after graduation. We basically, you don't, because you don't have money-making sports in Division III necessarily, you don't hear about high-profile and lower-profile sports. All sports are approached more equally in Division III. We place primary emphasis on conference competition, regional competition, as opposed to Division I, for example, where you see much more of a focus on national competition, the travel demands that come with that, the time demands that come with that. We expect student athletes in Division III to look like other students coming in the door, to perform like other students academically, and to graduate like other students do. And our data shows, in fact, that happens. Student athletes graduate at about 5 percentage points higher every year than students in general. About 88% of student athletes graduate successfully within 6 years at a Division III institution. We're very proud of those numbers. In terms of our sports single gender offerings, we are unique as a division in that we have 3 all-men's institutions, all-male institutions, and 21 all-female institutions, obviously including Bryn Mawr and Wellesley. That's unique among the association. I'm not sure if the other divisions, other than maybe a couple isolated instances, have many single-gender institutions. So that's also, I think, kind of a unique opportunity for us from a D3 perspective. So ultimately, if you're looking for an athletic experience that's fully integrated into the educational experience for the institution, that consciously believes that student athletes should have realistic opportunities for co-curricular and extracurricular activities, community service outside of off of the playing field. If you're looking for that kind of collegiate experience that positions you well for life after college, those are the kinds of folks that we strongly encourage to consider Division III. I know several folks are interested in sort of details regarding the recruiting process, and I will just share a couple things and then point you in a direction where you can get more information. In terms of eligibility requirements, there are initial eligibility requirements in terms of SAT, ACT, and in terms of GPA in Division I and Division II. Those don't exist in Division III. Each institution sets its own eligibility standards, and student athletes, again, are expected to meet the same eligibility standards as other students. You don't have athletic special admits in Division III typically like you might potentially have in the other divisions. We talked about the prohibition on athletics aid in Division III, but note this, 80% of Division III student athletes do receive institutional financial aid based either on merit or based upon need. And so although there's no athletics aid, 80% of Division III students receive some kind of financial assistance from the institution. NCAA awards D1 and D2 together award about $2 billion a year in athletics aid, but just note there's about $50 billion of athletics aid available every year based upon academics. So we don't want to discount athletics aid and the importance that serves for collegiate access. But it always, I think, has always been true and always will remain true. The best way to receive funding for college is through academics, and that's something that Division III emphasizes to a great deal. There's specific information available on the NCAA website, and this is I'll send this link for ahead of time so that you can post this on ncaa.org, which is our website. If you pull down the column that says student athletes, a couple places to click on that I have a treasure trove of information. One is a document that I highly recommend you look at. It's called the Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete. It summarizes all of the eligibility and recruiting rules applicable in each of the three divisions. The other place to look at is a link under that pull down called the NCAA Eligibility Center. If you are interested in ultimately going to enroll in Division I or Division II, you have to register with the Eligibility Center because that's the vehicle through which the NCAA determines whether you've met those eligibility requirements in terms of core courses and test score requirements that are applicable in Division I and Division II. If you don't know what division you're interested ultimately in participating in, I would encourage you to go ahead and sign up for the Eligibility Center. There is a registration fee, but it's minimal, and I think ultimately it's well worth it because it will help you to potentially be able to explore all the options that may come your way. So there's much more information about recruiting requirements, calendars, those kinds of things available on the website. So Janet, I think at this point, given the time, I may stop and see if there are any additional questions.
Yes, Dan, what is redshirting?
Redshirting is a term that basically means you don't participate in a contest during a particular year, but you are a member of the team. And so ultimately you save a season, what we call a season of participation for your 5th year of college.
Okay. And that's just Division I and II.
That's correct. In Division III, if you're a member of the team, whether you play or practice during the year, that counts as one of your 4 seasons.
Okay, terrific. And this is not so much a question, but a reflection, and looking back over the number of years that I've worked with, not specifically athletes, but students who actually were athletes, and one of an Ontario very high-ranked woman baseball player who played softball at a women's college. But many of my students who started out as athletes, and ice hockey, that's all they breathe, sleep, dream, eat, right, is their sport. By sometimes about 2nd year, if not sooner, they realize that, oh, I think I'd like to be an engineer and I got to spend more time studying. Do you have any comments about that? What would happen to you as an athlete at a Division III school if you changed your mind about being in love with ice hockey?
Sure. Yeah, I think Jen, it's a really important point because you are not receiving an athletic scholarship. You have more flexibility. You have the ability, I think, to pursue a change of heart when it comes to your athletics participation, to pursue maybe a different major that may have more time demands associated with it. Obviously, each institution, I can't speak for every school and exactly how they would handle this, but Division III, I would say by far, tries to accommodate conflicts between academics and athletics to as great an extent as possible. Again, because your sport's not generating revenue, because you're not, you don't have the commitments that come with an athletic scholarship, you as a student athlete have much more flexibility to decide you want to pursue different interests, or do you want to participate at all if you have a change of heart.
Thanks for everyone for participating and attending. I know we won't have answered all your questions, but this is an excellent start, and those of you who've chosen to attend and to listen, I know will have learned things. I certainly did. And thanks for attending, and please don't forget to sign up for collegetracker.com and read the articles and keep abreast of all that we're doing and all that's going on, because things change day by day. And thanks to our participants, and thanks to Suji.
Thank you. And by the way, everything is free. Everything that we provide, the resources, the videos, the content, everything is free for Canadians. So enjoy it.
Good.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye now.